Chapter 2, 3 months before. Tengri drew the initial boundaries of the sky, then pulled the high heavens away so that the earth might breathe on its own. The Songs of the 7 Shamanic Ascents. Oral Record 4.
There, try it now.
The little golem twitched once then again and finally heaved itself onto its 4 stubby legs. Burnt honey dripped down its side and pooled on the workbench. 2 of its glass bead eyes had melted slightly in the firing, giving it a permanently disappointed expression. It was by any reasonable standard an ugly thing.
It looks awful.
She was 12. Hair in 2 long braids. A smudge of dried clay on her cheek that she had been wearing all morning and had not noticed. First year at the Gök Academy. Top scores in alchemical theory. Bottom scores in literally everything else. She had been Ertan's most loyal tutoring student for 4 months.
It looks alive. That's the part that matters.
Ertan teacher, it is dripping.
Not a teacher yet. And yes, it is dripping.
It is burnt.
Yes.
It looks like a thing that crawled out from under my grandmother's house and died.
Aelin.
She huffed, blew a strand of hair off her forehead, and crossed her arms.
Why does it keep oozing?
Because honey is liquid at body temperature. You used honey to make it cute. That was clever. And you also need to figure out how to bind sweet substrates into a golem before you trust them. Honey melts the instant the threading heats up.
He pointed at the seam down the golem's belly where a slick of amber fluid was working its way out.
Your binding was good. Your heartstone is small but enough for this size. The shape is decent. The problem is the substrate.
What do I use instead?
Does it have to be sweet?
Absolutely.
Less clay, more flour. Maybe a little honey for sweetness. And don't bake it. Cold soak it for 2 days in salted mindstone water. It will set like cheese and hold the threading.
Like cheese?
He winced.
Cheese is a small controlled miracle. Aelin, respect cheese.
Her mouth twitched. She tried to keep the scowl on her face, failed and laughed.
Fine, I will try.
Good. Now go before Master Katog finds you here. He has decided this week that students are not permitted in tutor chambers without written permission from a full master.
That rule did not exist last week.
That rule will not exist next week either. He invents one every Tuesday.
Aelin scooped her sad little golem into the front of her robe, gave him a serious nod, and turned to leave. Then she stopped at the door and crouched.
Hello, Chanavar.
In the corner of the room, on a folded cushion the size of a plate, Chanavar lifted his head. He was about the size of a market loaf. A small clay creature with the rough shape of a stubby-legged cat-pup hybrid. His belly was patched along an old seam where Ertan had opened him 11 separate times to add new threading. His amber eyes caught the morning light and glowed faintly. Chanavar tilted his head. He had started doing that this past month. Ertan had not taught it to him. Aelin scratched gently behind one of Chanavar's clay ears, and Chanavar pushed his head into her hand, the way a real cat might. Aelin's eyes went round. She had seen Chanavar tilt his head. She had seen him fetch and place. She had never until this moment seen him lean into a touch.
Did he just...
Starlo. Go, Aelin.
Went. When the door closed, Ertan looked across the room at Chanavar. Chanavar was staring back at him with what could only be called attention. At least if Ertan was being honest with himself. And in his own room with no one watching, he usually tried to be.
You are showing off.
Chanavar tilted his head the other way.
You are absolutely showing off. Shut up and clean the room. I will be here all day. You don't have to wait for me to leave.
Chanavar trundled off toward his designated corners and set to work gathering dust and garbage with the solemn focus of a creature who had decided this was his job. Ertan stared at him for a long moment. Then he sighed and went back to his studies. His chamber was a narrow stone room in the southern wing of the workers' quarters for the less fortunate. It had been built 2 centuries ago and renovated never. The window was small and high and looked out across the central courtyard. The bed was a wooden frame strung with rope, topped with a straw mattress that he had stopped trying to make comfortable. The work table. That was the only thing in the room he had bought with his own money. Heavy oak. Replaceable surface. He used it for crafting brewing necessary potions, eating, studying. Well, everything. He had been at the academy for 9 years, 8 as a student, the last one as a tutor. He pulled out his lesson notes for the afternoon's tutorial, applied manifesting 3rd year. The cruelest joke in his teaching schedule. He had no manifesting at all, none. The healers at the House of Umai had blamed it on childhood trauma and stopped trying when he turned 16. Sankar Turan, who had personally examined him 8 times, had finally said it with the kindness of a man who had run out of better answers. Some channels are scarred Ertan, yours scarred young. Ertan had been an outstanding student in every other area, and when the tutoring position opened up, he had taken it with both hands. In this academy, positions were given to connections, and his only connection had been his test scores. He could not light a spark, but he could explain with the unforgiving precision of a man who had memorized every pattern and inversion in the textbook exactly why a student's spark had failed. He read the same paragraph 3 times. He realized he was not reading it. He was thinking about the morning's first session, where a boy named Chengiz had managed a respectable wind pulse and looked up at him for approval. "I will never feel what that feels like," he breathed out again. A knock at the door.
Hello, Glyphrat. Can I come in?
Ertan closed his book.
You are a faculty member now. You are not allowed to bully me.
Faculty members are allowed to bully whomever they like. It is one of the perks. Move.
She pushed the door open with her hip and came in. She was wearing the dark blue robe of a newly appointed teacher. The robe was supposed to be formal. Tomris had already destroyed its dignity by rolling the sleeves up to her elbows and leaving the top 3 buttons undone. Her brown hair was pulled back in a leather cord. Her boots were dusty. She had been promoted 3 weeks ago through the personal request of her grandfather, the governor, after 3 years of teaching at a minor academy in the East. Nobody at the Gurk Academy believed the cover story. Everyone respected it anyway. She had been Ertan's friend since they were 12 and 14, respectively.
Get up.
I am preparing for class.
Your class is at 4th bell. It is 2nd bell.
Yes, and I have a great deal to prepare.
My class is at 3rd bell. It is my first day. You are coming.
Humorous.
You are coming.
I have...
She walked across the room, picked his book up out of his hands, closed it, and set it on the work table. She looked at him with the bright, relentless cheer she had brought to every disagreement they had ever had.
You can study at my class. You are coming to my first class. And before that, you are coming with me to my father's office.
Why?
To kiss his hand and ask his blessing for my first day.
That is your tradition, not mine.
He loves you, Ertan. He will be glad to see you.
He also sits on the Gurk Academy Foundation Board, and I am a tutor with no manifesting, and showing up beside you on your first day looks like you are politicking for me, which
is exactly what I am doing. Yes.
It's Tomris.
Walk with me, little scholar.
He walked with her. He always walked with her. The Gurk Academy was the largest stone-built complex in the Khaganate, and from the southern wing, the central courtyard opened into a view that still, after 9 years, sometimes stopped Ertan in the middle of a step. 3 of the 7 academy towers floated. Not levitated for show. Floated. The towers had been built during the early years of the Golden Khaganate, back when the first master shamans feared earthquakes would one day crack the academy plateau apart. Each tower rested above a humming Tengri engine, a stone pillar twice the height of a man, carved top to bottom with wind and stability sigils. Atmospheric cut pooled heavily above the plateau, and the engines drank from it day and night to keep the towers steady in the air. The sound they made sat just beneath hearing. Most people forgot it existed until one shut down for maintenance, and the silence suddenly felt wrong. Tomris walked under it all without looking up. She had grown up here. Ertan looked up. He always looked up. He had been brought to the Gurk Academy at 12. One of 9 half-conscious Sorgan children dragged through the gates by an Akenshi patrol. And the first time he had seen the floating towers, he had stared at them so long the older students had thought there was something wrong with him. He had never quite stopped looking.
Are you going to tell me what is bothering you, or am I going to have to guess?
Nothing is bothering me.
Liar.
Tomris.
You are walking like a man being marched to a hanging.
That is not unusual when I am walking next to you.
She elbowed him in the ribs. He grinned despite himself. She grinned back. They climbed the worn stone stair of the southern tower. The office of the ritual arm was on the 4th floor, behind a heavy oak door with a small brass plate that read Sankar Turan. No title, no flourishes, because Sankar Turan did not believe in ranks. Unlike everyone else in the Khaganate, Tomris reached for the door handle. The door was not fully latched. It creaked open a finger's width under her touch. She froze.
There are people inside.
We should leave. We should very much leave.
Shh.
Morris?
Shh.
She pressed her ear to the gap. Ertan, who had spent 10 years learning when to fight Tomris and when to give up, gave up. He crouched behind her. Through the gap he could see a wedge of the office, wood-paneled walls, a heavy desk, and at the desk 3 figures. Sankar Turan, in his everyday grey robe, sitting with both hands flat on the wood. The headmaster of the Gurk Academy, Master Bilge Ergik, a thin, nervous man whose fingers tapped the table edge whenever he was uncomfortable and were tapping now. And across from them, upright, in a high-backed chair, too large for her small body, an old woman whose skin glowed. Ertan's spine went cold. Ulu Ana, mother of all shamans, the Kagan's personal head shaman. She lived in the inner sanctum of the imperial palace and did not leave the palace for any reason short of imperial command. She had not visited the Gurk Academy in years. She looked exactly like Ertan's grandmother had looked on the last good summer of his grandmother's life. Radiant skin, quick eyes, a long carved cane resting against the side of her chair. 2 enormous men in black sashes stood behind her. Imperial Shaman Guards, House of Umai, trained the kind that did not blink. Her cane lifted and tapped the floor once. Talk, 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 talk.
Turan Aga, Turan Aga, Turan Aga Ah.
Her voice was a thin silver wire stretched tight.
You are forcing your luck too far.
Olu Ana.
You will increase the numbers of your next Akin. That is the only path remaining to you. At least 2,000 bid.
The headmaster's fingers stopped tapping. Sankar Turan did not move.
2,000.
Ulu Ana, with the deepest respect, we sent 100 2 months ago, 60 before that. Of every 100, none return. You were asking me to drown 2,000 of our finest in the Ergenekon in a single working, and when it fails, as it will, we will have no volunteers left to call on next time.
The Kagan has spoken.
Has the Kagan spoken? Or have his advisors spoken?
The temperature in the room, judging from the headmaster's visible flinch, dropped 20 degrees.
Watch your tongue, Duranada.
Olu Ana's voice did not rise. It did the opposite. It went very quiet.
Your father-in-law is one careless word away from dividing this country. Your own house is splitting under your feet. Do not test the patience of those few who still wish you to keep your post.
My father-in-law. What about Father Kultigan?
A silence.
Ulu Ana.
Sankar's voice was different now. Lower, sharper.
What about Father Kultigan?
Do not act as if you do not know.
I do not know. Tell me.
Ulu Ana lifted one tiny hand. The Imperial guards behind her stepped forward in the same motion and lifted her chair, and all an inch off the floor. They began to walk her toward the door.
2,000 souls, Taranaga.
Her cane tapped the floor as they moved. Talk, 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 talk.
Or the next Akin won't be your problem, and the matter will be settled in ways you will not enjoy. Good day, Magister.
Tomris was already moving. She grabbed Ertan's wrist hard enough to hurt and dragged him 3 strides down the corridor into the deep bay of an arched window. They flattened against the cold stone. Ertan held his breath. Tomris held his arm so tight her knuckles went white. The office door swung fully open. Ulu Ana's chair-borne procession came through it. The old woman, the 2 enormous guards, the slow, regular knocks of her cane meeting the floor as she allowed her bearers to walk her down the hall. Talk! 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 Toch! She did not look at the alcove. The closer guard did. For one cold, flat second, the woman's eyes met Ertan's. Ertan did not move. He did not breathe. He was 12 years old again, hiding under a cart, while a furtna chewed through his village, and he knew, with the sure, clean knowledge of a child who has learned how to be still, that any motion now would be the wrong motion. The guard's eyes moved on. The procession swept past. The corridor went silent. Ertan exhaled. Tomris did not exhale. Her eyes were fixed on the closed office door. Her lips were moving. He had to lean in to catch the words.
Ah, Grandpa, what are you doing? What are you doing?
A pause. Then the shake stopped. He watched it stop. Her hand went steady. Not the slow steady of relaxation, but the hard, immediate steady of a soldier locking down a tremor before her commanding officer noticed. She turned to him with a bright, completely fake smile.
My class. Third bell. We need to hurry.
Homerus.
Lock!
She walked. He followed. They did not speak the rest of the way to the lower hall. He sat in the back row of her first class, opened his book, and stared at the same paragraph for an hour without reading any of it. 2,000 souls. This was the Kagan's last move to shut the mouths of those who had begun to whisper that the throne was no longer taking the surges seriously. Ertan had no business inside any of that. He was a tutor with no manifesting a salary that ran out the third week of every month, and a small clay creature on a cushion in his chamber that had recently started tilting its head. And yet, sitting in the back row of his best friend's first class, he felt the small, cold turn of a thought he had not yet dared to think out loud. What if we could send all our Kaganate might without worry of sacrificing a soul? He went back to his chamber that night, opened the third drawer of his work table, and wrote the question on the inside cover of his journal. He underlined it twice. He did not sleep.